What if I told you that the UFC almost never had weight classes? Picture this: a 216-pound kickboxer stepping into the octagon against a 410-pound sumo wrestler. No gloves, no mouth guards, no time limits, just pure, unfiltered violence until someone couldn't continue. This actually happened at UFC 1, and it was absolutely brutal. The big guy, done in one kick. But here's the crazy part. This chaos is exactly why we have the incredible weight divisions we see today. In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down every single UFC weight class, reveal the legends who built these divisions, and show you why understanding these divisions will make you appreciate MMA on a completely different level. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll never watch a UFC fight the same way again. Let's dive in. Before we jump into the divisions, you need to understand why they exist in the first place. Back in 1993, the UFC had a wild idea. What if we put fighters from different martial arts backgrounds in a cage and let them fight with almost no rules? The goal was to find out which fighting style was truly superior. UFC 1 was like the Wild West of fighting. Gerard Gordeau, a Dutch kickboxer weighing 216 pounds, faced off against Taylor Tooley, a massive 410-pound sumo wrestler. The size difference was insane. But here's where it gets crazy. Gordeau landed one kick to Tooley's face, and the big man went down hard. Teeth flying, blood everywhere. It was so brutal that even the crowd was shocked into silence. This fight proved something important. Size doesn't always matter, but when there's extreme size differences, someone could literally die in there. The UFC realized they needed structure. They needed weight classes. They needed rules. Because what they created was less of a sport and more like a gladiator arena. And that's how we got the incredible divisions we have today. Let's start with the smallest, but definitely not the weakest. The straw weight division at 115 pounds. Here's something that might surprise you. This division is exclusively for women, and these ladies will absolutely destroy anyone who underestimates them. Zhang Weili made history as the first Chinese UFC champion, and let me tell you, this woman is a problem. She throws combinations that sound like machine gun fire and has knockout power that defies physics. But the real viral sensation, Yan Xiaonan. This woman is literally a doctor by day and a cage fighter by night. Imagine getting your physical exam from someone who could knock you unconscious with a single kick. Her parents in China don't even know she's a UFC fighter. The strawweight division proves that you don't need to be big to be dangerous. These fighters rely on pure technique, lightning-fast combinations, and cardio that would make marathon runners jealous. If you're sleeping on strawweight, you're missing some of the most technical and exciting fights in all of MMA. At 125 pounds, we have the flyweight division. And this is where things get both amazing and heartbreaking. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson. Remember that name because you're looking at arguably the greatest mixed martial artist who ever lived. This man held the flyweight title for nearly 6 years and defended it 11 consecutive times. That's a UFC record that still stands today. But here's where the story gets infuriating. The UFC basically threw him away. While Mighty Mouse was putting on masterclass performances, the UFC was paying CM Punk, a WWE wrestler with zero MMA experience, $500,000 for his second fight just because he was famous. Meanwhile, DJ was making a fraction of that, despite being the most dominant champion in the division's history. The final insult? The UFC literally traded Mighty Mouse to one championship for Ben Askren. Imagine trading Michael Jordan for a decent role player. That's essentially what happened here. DJ left for one championship and immediately proved he was still the best in the world. The flyweight division never recovered from losing its king. Without Mighty Mouse, it feels empty, like a throne room without its rightful ruler. Welcome to 135 pounds, the bantamweight division, where every fight feels like a movie And every champion has a Hollywood story. Dominick Cruz revolutionized how we think about footwork in MMA. Watching Cruz fight was like watching someone play 4D chess while everyone else was playing checkers. His movement was so unorthodox that opponents literally couldn't figure out how to hit him. Then we have TJ Dillashaw, a two-time champion whose legacy got completely destroyed by getting caught using EPO. This guy had everything but threw it all away for a competitive edge he didn't need. The most controversial moment? Aljamain Sterling becoming champion because Petr Yan threw an illegal knee. Sterling was getting dominated. Then boom, one illegal strike and he's the champion. The MMA world lost its mind. Now we have Merab Dvalishvili, an absolute machine whose cardio is so insane that he makes other professional athletes look out of shape. He holds the record for most takedowns in UFC history, breaking a record previously held by Georges St-Pierre. The bantamweight division proves that at 135 pounds, you can have it all: technique, power, drama, and fights that leave you on the edge of your seat. At 145 pounds, we enter the featherweight division, the weight class that gave us the most iconic moment in UFC history. Jose Aldo was the undisputed king of featherweight for nearly a decade. This man was untouchable, defending his title multiple times against elite competition and making it look easy. Then came Conor McGregor, a trash-talking Irishman with a left hand that could change your life in the worst possible way. December 12, 2015, Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor. The buildup was insane. McGregor was predicting exactly how he would knock out Aldo. Most people thought it was just typical Conor trash talk. Then, the fight happened. 13 seconds. That's all it took. One perfectly timed left-hand counter, and Jose Aldo, the man who had been untouchable for a decade, was unconscious on the canvas. It's still the fastest knockout in UFC title fight history. In 13 seconds, McGregor didn't just win a belt. He became a global superstar and turned the UFC into a mainstream phenomenon. Currently, the division is ruled by Ilia Topuria, a young, hungry fighter with knockout power in both hands and confidence that reminds people of early McGregor. The featherweight division will always be special because it gave us the moment that proved MMA could produce global superstars and mainstream moments that transcend the sport itself. We've reached the promised land, the lightweight division at 155 pounds. This is where legends are made, and the most iconic moments in UFC history have taken place. Let's start with the man who made this division legendary, Khabib Nurmagomedov. When Khabib first showed up, nobody knew what to expect. Here was this guy from Dagestan, who spoke broken English and had a fighting style that looked more like wrestling practice than mixed martial arts. The experts were not impressed. Khabib's got holes in his game. McGregor's left hand is going to catch him. But Zlatan Ibrahimovic saw what was coming. I think Khabib will win, because if he catches you, he doesn't let you go. He will make you suffer and give up in a way that looks very bad. October 6, 2018, UFC 229, Khabib versus McGregor. This wasn't just a fight, it was a cultural phenomenon. The build-up was toxic. McGregor crossed every line possible, attacking Khabib's religion, family, and country. Then, they got in the octagon. Khabib didn't just beat McGregor, he dominated him. He made the most dangerous striker in the division look helpless. In the fourth round, Khabib locked in a neck crank, and McGregor tapped out. But that's not where the story ends. The moment McGregor tapped, Khabib jumped over the cage to attack McGregor's teammate. Meanwhile, Khabib's teammates jumped into the octagon. The entire arena erupted into chaos. Mike Tyson tweeted that Khabib's post-fight brawl was crazier than anything he'd ever done. And this is coming from a man who bit off someone's ear. Khabib retired undefeated at 29-0, and his legacy lives on through Islam Makhachev. the current champion with the same suffocating wrestling style, but more refined striking. This division also gave us Charles Oliveira, who holds the record for most finishes in UFC history, and Justin Gaethje, who brings absolute violence every time he steps into the octagon. The lightweight division is where careers are made and legends are born. It's the perfect weight where fighters have serious knockout power, but maintain incredible speed and cardio. At 170 pounds, we enter the welterweight division, where fighters get seriously dangerous and every fight has knockout potential. Georges St-Pierre was the GOAT of this division. GSP wasn't just a champion, he was a master craftsman who approached fighting like a chess grandmaster. For years, he made elite welterweights look like they didn't belong in the same octagon. Now let's talk about the most embarrassing trade in UFC history: Ben Askren. Remember how the UFC traded Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren? Well, Askren's UFC career lasted exactly 5 seconds. Jorge Masvidal landed a flying knee that sent Askren to the Shadow Realm faster than you could blink. It's still the fastest knockout in UFC history, and it instantly made Masvidal a superstar while making the UFC's trade look absolutely ridiculous. Currently, the division is ruled by Belal Muhammad, and here's where things get complicated. Belal is technically skilled and genuinely good person, but many fans find his fighting style boring. The hate he gets is honestly unfair. The man wins fights through superior technique. We also have Khamzat Chimaev, the Wolf, who burst onto the scene like a natural disaster. He was smashing opponents so badly that people started comparing him to early Khabib. He even moved up to middleweight and broke Robert Whittaker's jaw with a submission. The welterweight division represents the perfect balance of size, skill, and entertainment value. At 185 pounds, we have the middleweight division, where we've witnessed some of the most dominant title reigns in UFC history. Anderson the Spider Silva wasn't just a champion, he was a magician. Watching him fight was like watching someone who had unlocked cheat codes for real life. He would lean back from punches with his hands down, then counter with combinations from impossible angles. Silva held the middleweight title for almost 7 years, the longest title reign in UFC history. His knockout of Vitor Belfort with a front kick to the face is still one of the most beautiful techniques ever landed. Then came Israel Adesanya, the last stylebender, a legitimate anime fan who brought dramatic flair to his fighting. His striking was like watching a video game character come to life. But then, his past came back to haunt him. Alex Pereira, Adesanya's old kickboxing rival who had knocked him out twice, decided to try MMA. Their rivalry became one of the most compelling storylines in recent UFC history. Pereira caught Adesanya and knocked him out, taking his belt. But Adesanya got his revenge in the rematch with a brutal knockout of his own. We also have to mention Yoel Romero, a freak of nature who could absorb punishment that would hospitalize normal humans and then explode with knockout power out of nowhere. The middleweight division represents the perfect storm of size, skill, and entertainment value. At 205 pounds, we enter the light heavyweight division, where fighters look like they were built in a laboratory. Alex Pereira moved up from middleweight and immediately started terrorizing light heavyweights with kickboxing skills that make his punches sound like baseball bats hitting trees. Gigi Prochaska fights like he's controlled by someone playing a video game for the first time. His striking comes from angles that shouldn't exist, and somehow, it all works perfectly. But the most dominant and controversial figure is Jon Jones. Jones became the youngest UFC champion at 23 and was absolutely untouchable for years. His reach was insane, his wrestling was elite, and his fight IQ was off the charts. But Jones also became one of the most controversial figures in sports. Multiple arrests, failed drug tests, the infamous eye pokes, erratic behavior, including threatening to kill people at 3 a.m. on social media. His rivalry with Daniel Cormier became one of the most personal feuds in UFC history. These men genuinely hated each other, and their fights reflected that animosity. The light heavyweight division represents where fighters become genuinely scary human beings with knockout power that can change your life permanently. We've reached the top, the heavyweight division at 265 pounds, where every punch is a potential highlight reel. Francis Ngannou, the Predator, holds the record for the hardest recorded punch in human history. When Francis hits you, it's like getting hit by a car at highway speeds. Ngannou's story is incredible. He grew up in poverty in Cameroon, worked in sand mines, and eventually made his way to Europe with nothing but a dream. His knockout power is so legendary that other heavyweights are genuinely afraid to engage with him. Currently, the heavyweight title situation is messy, and it revolves around Jon Jones. Jones moved up and won the title, but here's the problem. He's barely active. Look at the gaps between his fights, sometimes over a year between appearances. Meanwhile, Tom Aspinall holds the interim heavyweight title and is putting on spectacular performances while waiting for his shot at Jones. Aspinall is everything you want in a heavyweight: technical, powerful, and active. The problem is that Jones seems more interested in cherry-picking opponents than actually defending his title against the most dangerous contenders. His continued controversies, threatening people on Instagram Live, multiple legal issues, erratic behavior, overshadow his talent. The heavyweight division should be the crown jewel of the UFC, but it's being held hostage by an inactive champion. When heavyweight fights are good, though, they're incredible. One punch can change everything, and every heavyweight has the power to end fights in spectacular fashion. Looking at all these divisions together, you can see the incredible evolution of mixed martial arts. We went from the Wild West chaos of UFC 1, where a 410-pound sumo wrestler got knocked out by a single kick, to the highly technical, athletic masterpieces we see today. Each weight division has developed its own identity. Strawweight and flyweight showcase pure technique and cardio. Bantamweight and featherweight combine speed with knockout power. Lightweight represents the perfect balance of all skills. Welterweight and middleweight bring serious power with elite technique. Light heavyweight and heavyweight feature the most dangerous athletes on the planet. The fighters today are more well-rounded, more athletic, and more skilled than ever before. A modern UFC fighter needs to be elite in striking, wrestling, submissions, and cardio. There are no more one-dimensional fighters at the top level. But what hasn't changed is the heart, the determination, and the willingness to put everything on the line for glory. Every fighter who steps into that octagon is risking their health and career to prove they're the best in the world. The weight classes aren't just arbitrary numbers. They represent different styles of fighting, different approaches to the sport, and different types of entertainment for fans. Here's why understanding these divisions makes you a better MMA fan. The smaller divisions, strawweight through featherweight, are where you see the purest technique. These fighters can't rely on size or power alone. They have to be technically perfect. When you watch these divisions, you're seeing martial arts at its most refined. The middle divisions, lightweight through middleweight, represent the sweet spot of MMA. These fighters have enough size to generate serious power, but enough speed and cardio to maintain high pace throughout entire fights. This is where you get the perfect blend of technique, power, and entertainment. The bigger divisions, light heavyweight and heavyweight, are where you see the most dramatic finishes. These guys hit so hard that one mistake can end everything instantly. The margin for error is smaller, which makes every exchange more exciting. Each division also attracts different types of athletes. Smaller fighters often come from wrestling or martial arts backgrounds where technique is emphasized. Bigger fighters might come from football or other power sports where size and strength matter more. Understanding this helps you appreciate what you're watching. When you see a flyweight land a perfect combination, you're seeing years of technical refinement. When you see a heavyweight land a knockout punch, you're seeing raw power that few humans possess. The beauty of the UFC is that there's something for every type of fan. Love technical battles? Watch the smaller divisions. Want to see knockouts? Check out the bigger guys. Want the perfect balance? Lightweight is your division. Here's something most fans don't think about. Each division represents different business opportunities for the UFC. Heavyweight and light heavyweight generate the most casual interest because knockouts are easy to understand and market. You don't need to know anything about MMA to appreciate someone getting knocked unconscious. Lightweight is the money division because it combines technical skill with knockout power, creating stars like Khabib and McGregor who transcend the sport. The smaller divisions often struggle for attention despite having incredible talent. This is why Mighty Mouse got traded, despite being arguably the GOAT. His fights were masterpieces, but they didn't generate mainstream buzz. This business reality affects how fighters approach their careers. Smaller fighters often have to be more entertaining or controversial to get attention. Bigger fighters can sometimes coast on their knockout power alone. Understanding this dynamic helps explain some of the UFC's decisions that seem crazy from a pure sporting perspective. Trading Mighty Mouse for Ben Askren made no sense competitively, but it made business sense because Askren had more mainstream appeal. It's frustrating, but it's the reality of modern MMA. The UFC is an entertainment company first and a sport second, which means the most skilled fighters aren't always the most promoted or highest paid. Understanding these weight divisions isn't just about knowing who fights where. It's about appreciating the incredible journey that mixed martial arts has taken. From the brutal chaos of early UFC to the technical masterpieces we see today, each division tells a story of evolution, dedication, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. The next time you watch a UFC fight, you'll understand the history behind each division, the legends who built them, and the current stars who are writing the next chapter. These aren't just weight classes. They're kingdoms, each with their own rulers, challengers, and epic stories waiting to be told. Every division has produced moments that transcended the sport. McGregor's 13-second knockout, Khabib's post-fight brawl, Anderson Silva's front kick, Jon Jones's dominance despite his controversies. These moments didn't happen in a vacuum. They happened because the UFC created a structure that allows the best fighters in the world to compete against each other in fair, organized competition. The weight classes ensure that fights are competitive, that technique matters as much as size, and that every fighter has a path to championship glory regardless of their physical dimensions. What's your favorite UFC division and why? Drop a comment below and let me know which fighters got you into MMA. And if this video helped you understand the UFC better, smash that like button and subscribe for more breakdowns that will make you the smartest MMA fan in your friend group. I'll see you in the next one, where we'll dive deep into the greatest rivalries in UFC history.